why the fuck are you the only one reporting on this thing?
There is an entire media blackout, and it's not for want of trying. I pitched over a dozen outlets on this story over the past few weeks, some directly telling me it just wasn't news. And on its face, I get it. Who could care about a bill that makes it tougher to shoplift, right? Everybody should support this. But in reality, if you look at this bill, what it is a gigantic handout to the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. What it does is allow the Department of Homeland Security to create a new national crime center for organized shoplifting, a crime they get to define, with a director appointed by the director of ICE. And what it allows them to do is work with local and state law enforcement and private companies to collect information about people who are accused of shoplifting, including personal information, citizenship status, driver's license information, health information. There is no practical limit in the bill to what they can collect. They can then take that information, share it across the government however they want, with no restrictions. And though companies aren't forced to do this, if they don't, the Department of Homeland Security can do what they call reprioritizing federal grants to local law enforcement. So basically, you help give all of the personal information of people who are just accused of shoplifting to ICE, or you can kiss goodbye all of your federal police training money, all of your vehicle maintenance grants, and we have no idea where any of this data is being stored, how it's being stored, how it's being used, and you have no right to ask under the language of this bill.
So, I mean, all of that is terrifying. There is some reporting, and I believe it's your reporting, that found they are working towards this sort of centralized database or centralized sort of mechanism for storing all of this data. But I think the thing that I want to kind of circle back on is that this isn't people who are charged and convicted of shoplifting.
Yeah.
Right.
This is anyone who is stopped at the discretion of a company, and they can collect information in collaboration with the police. They can set up geo-gating at their facilities, which will scrape information off of your phone, even if you have not been stopped for a crime. And the reason they're doing this is because private companies are not subject to the same Fourth Amendment search and seizure protections that governments are when they come to you. A company can take a lot more of your information without triggering a Fourth Amendment challenge than the government can. So by having companies do this, the government gets a nice trove of information and they don't have to go to court about it.
And what are they going to do with this information?
Literally nobody knows. It's not included in the bill. There is no safeguard to how it's used, how it's stored, who gets to use it, only that the director of the center, who's appointed by ICE, can decide as is needed in the language of the bill what it's used for and when that information should be shared with other people, even if it is legally confidential or privileged personal information. If they decide they need it for something, they can send it over to ICE and have them come pick you up.
I mean, look, if MAGA is so, and the world is so in awe of China, welcome. Right?
Yeah.
Right. This is
and 84 Democrats in the House co-sponsored this bill.
So that's my second question: is why? And your own reporting flipped some of them, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, we saw dozens drop. Ro Khanna, who was a major co-sponsor, didn't vote at all. And the part of it is they didn't read it. They took it at face value. The other part is that retail trade organizations give a lot of money. And places like Palantir and AI firms that are going to be building these databases have given a lot of money to the Democrats sponsoring this bill. In the Senate, you have Jackie Rosen, Mark Kelly, a couple other Democrats as well they're co-sponsoring, who have taken pretty significant money from these lobbying industry groups. They have an incentive not to read too deeply into what it does, but it's certainly betraying their pledge to fight ICE.
Yeah, the arc reactor in a very near future, and perhaps now, all suspects are guilty, period. Otherwise, they wouldn't be suspect, would they? I mean, this is where we are. And look, I think this also gets at the sort of electoral temperature where we are at the moment, because what is this for, right? Go back to the kitchen table that we were just talking about. Does this help you buy a hamburger? Does it? And the only good thing about this in their eyes, I'm sure, is that nobody knew about it until you.
Yeah. I mean, and the reality is, sure, retail shoplifting is bad. No one likes to go to CVS and see the chocolate behind a locked box, but it's also a local law enforcement issue. No one who I spoke to about this, the few who would speak to me, could explain to me the federal national security issue involved in someone shoplifting Tide Pods that would necessitate having ICE involved at the federal level in investigating them. No one, because it doesn't exist. This is an opportunity to collect more data and to do it around the Constitution.
Look, shoplifting being a local issue as well, when shoplifting really increases, when you fuck the economy, right? When the only way to get that cheeseburger is to steal it.
Yeah. It certainly is not coincidental. I think that this is, finding a great way to collect data from people who are now going to be driven to having to shoplift to get by in some cases.
Yeah. What are we going to do? Deport everyone who's hungry? Then there's no more hunger.
Yeah. I genuinely believe a large part of this is targeting lower income Americans, many of whom are non-citizens or who are naturalized citizens. We've seen it doesn't matter the difference anymore, and bringing them into this database.
Where does this go? So it's in the Senate this week?
So now it goes to the Senate. There's not a date set for the vote yet, but I encourage people to call your senator and look up the roll call vote in the House. I've posted it on my Twitter at @TheMaxBurns, along with all of the sections outlining what happens. Don't take my word for it. Read it yourself and then get mad. Call your lawmakers and ask why any Democrat who says they stand against ICE would be within a mile of this monstrosity.
And that's the thing. Look, this isn't just a Republican bill, right? This had Democratic co-sponsors. Like you said, some of them didn't show up to vote after they were, poked and prodded about that. So I'm going to put that up again.
Both Nevada Democratic senators, Amy Klobuchar, shockingly, a huge voice against ICE, is a co-sponsor on this. I'd love to hear what she has to say about it.
Call him. Everyone call. Call your senator, call your reps, call everyone, Democrat or Republican. One part of the article that was so fascinating is a huge pressure campaign came from TikTok.
Yeah, the only people, mainstream media didn't cover this. You look it up, you will not find a story about this anywhere. It was young progressive activists on TikTok, people with 1 million and 2 million followers. Young people who took the time to read the bill themselves and share it among themselves. The only reason most people know about this.
Pressure works, people. Pressure works.